Thank you all for being here, taking time out of your busy day to be on this call. Just wanted to thank you for that. I want to call the meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is the St. Louis County Special Committee on Ethics. And the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the public petition requesting an investigation of possible charter violations by the county executive related to outside employment. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Harder.
Here.
Councilmember Days.
Here.
Councilmember Fitch.
Here.
Councilmember Webb.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. The committee takes official notice of and admits into evidence all St. Louis County ordinances and resolutions. Just for those that are listening in, I just want to let them know the purpose of this committee is to have the responsibility of establishment of policies and procedures to oversee the potential for conflicts of interest by both elected officials and appointed personnel. Duties will include personal financial disclosures, open records requests, and investigating potential ethics violations by county personnel. This committee is a bipartisan committee comprised of committee chairman Mark Harder, council members Tim Fitch, Rita Days, and Shalonda Webb. So for introductory remarks, I just want to, I think we're all aware of what's been going on, but I just want to, for the record, let everybody know the history of this situation. It was brought to our attention by KMOV Channel 4 back in October 21st of 2020 through a interview that they did that Dr. Sam Page talked about his job at Mercy and that he was already doing shifts there during that interview. This was brought to our attention, and a number of us had a lot of questions concerning that. Me in particular, I asked Beth Orwick, our legal counsel, to investigate this situation, wrote her a letter back on November 2nd. I'd like to read that letter into record. Madam Clerk, could you read that letter into the record?
Yes, sir. November 2nd, 2020, Beth Orwick, County Councilor. On October 21st, 2020, several press outlets reported that County Executive Page has continued active employment by Mercy Hospital during his tenure as County Executive. It was reported that Dr. Page works, quote, the occasional shift to maintain his medical license and credentialing so that he can go on a mission trip once a year, end quote. And quote, sometimes a 4-hour shift in the evenings, less than once a week, end quote. Dr. Page did this work on what he characterized as his, quote, personal time, end quote. Since 1979, the St. Louis County Charter, Article 3, Section 3.010, has stated that the county executive, quote, shall devote his entire time to the duties of his office, end quote. There is no acknowledgement of personal time in the charter. Additionally, we note that at the time of his selection as interim county executive, Dr. Page assured council members that he would put his position as physician at Mercy Hospital on hold until he was to leave office. We therefore request the county councilor's office to open an investigation into the legitimacy of the claims made by the media and whether Dr. Page's continued employment by Mercy Hospital for any amount of time is a possible violation of the county charter. The aforementioned investigation should also include examination of any disbursement of CARES Act money or county contract spending that was uniquely and exclusively given to any organization affiliated with Mercy Hospital System or its affiliates since April of 2019 by the authority of the county executive or his department. Once the investigation is complete, the results should be reviewed with the members of the council in open session, where it will then be determined by the council what steps, if any, should then be taken. Time is of the essence. We look forward to your timely response. Sincerely, Mark Harder and Tim Fitch.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The response to this was communicated verbally to me by Ms. Orwick about a week or two after this letter was sent. She communicated that way to me that she did an investigation and that she saw no wrongdoing at that time. There was nothing put in writing. It was just a verbal over the telephone situation. So I just want to make sure that that is in the record as well. Recently, as you know, we've had people that have called in on our meetings and have brought this to our attention for the last couple of months. And then most recently, a group of about 16 residents put together a petition, a signed letter, so to speak, that asked us to look into this situation and to do it formally. Madam Clerk, would you read that letter into the record, please?
Yes, sir. Dated April 15th, 2021, attention Mark Harder, Ethics Committee Chairman. Section 3.010 of the St. Louis County Charter requires that, quote, the county executive's entire time shall be devoted to the duties of the office, end quote. The current county executive, Sam Page, is paid a salary by the county to devote his entire time to the duties of his office. Yet he is a partner in Western Anesthesiology Associates and continues to work as an anesthesiologist. By failing to devote his entire time to his duties as county executive, he has forfeited his position and should be ousted from office. We request that the Ethics Committee initiate an investigation into Sam Page's employment, agreement with his partners, payroll or pay distribution records, record of working time for Western Anesthesiology Associates, to gain further information about the nature of the violation. We also request that the Ethics Committee investigate whether Sam Page or anyone supervised by him has authorized any federal, state, or local monetary relief in the form of PPP loans or otherwise to Western Anesthesiology Associates. Receipt of such funds has the appearance of impropriety. Thus, we request that the Ethics Committee investigate the permissibility of any and all such payments.
And how many signatures are on there?
The sheet that I have is 16 signatures.
Okay, thank you. Yesterday, I received a change.org petition. I will put this record as well with signatures from this website. And the count on this is 236 signatures with this petition. So that will be entered into the record with this petition. Next item is, Madam Clerk, if you would read section 3.010, Article 3 of the Charter into the record.
Councilman Harder, could I ask a question before you proceed?
Sure.
Thank you. One, thank you for inviting the rest of the council to your hearing. I wanted to let you know, and the other members of the committee know, I have a previously scheduled matter at 1:30, so I will only be able to stay until about 1:15 or so. So I apologize for having to leave early. And just as a follow-up, I have a recollection that Ms. Orwick sent every member of the council a letter in response to your request for investigation. And I think it would be certainly within the purview of this committee to consider whether or not it should recommend to the council as a whole to waive any privilege associated with Ms. Orwick's letter, and then make that part of your record as well. But again, thank you for the invitation, and I apologize for having to leave early.
That's fine. Thank you. That's a good point. We will look for that letter and enter that into the record as well. So without further, Madam Chair, or Madam Clerk, would you read section 3.010?
Yes, sir. The executive power of the county shall be vested in the county executive. The county executive shall be elected at the general election in 1982 and every 4 years thereafter. The county executive shall take office on the second Tuesday in January following the county executive's election. The county executive shall be a qualified voter of the county and shall have resided in the county for at least 2 years immediately prior to election. The county executive's entire time shall be devoted to the duties of the office. The salary of the county executive shall be fixed by ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, since entered all that into the record, would like discussions among the committee. Who wants to go first?
Councilman Hart.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
Ms.
Mr.
Daves,
Hicks.
sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure that in light of what Councilman Tracus was saying, that there was a different letter or a different response than what you had asked for. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that one. So the letter that you sent, you did not get a formal response. You got a verbal response. Is that correct?
My recollection is I did not get a formal response, but if there is one out there, we'll enter it into the record.
Okay, I don't know if that was responding to your request or what, but I think that's important that we make sure that we, if there are two different documents, that we get both of those. So thank you.
Sure, we'll try to find that and get that out to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Webb.
Mr. Chair, I was following the same thread. I don't know if this all happens prior to my arrival, receiving those correspondence from the council, but I have no correspondence that's been referenced from Councilman Fitch or any thereafter.
Okay.
So if you do have that, could you please have that forwarded as well?
Sure, will do. We'll get that to you today. Anyone else? Yeah, Councilman Fitch.
Well, it seems to me as if the first thing we need to do is we need to gather some information, obviously. We need to find out exactly what's been going on. I mean, we can all read the charter and make our own conclusions about what it means and maybe have some differences about what it means. And I understand that. I know in my previous role, I was also limited to devoting all of my time to the duties of the office. And I was told that I could not work outside employment. So I don't know about the other officials that are mentioned in the charter that have the same restriction. I know it was put on me by my board, and that's the way it was. Now we can, like I said, have some discussion about what exactly this means. For me, I don't think it means that the county executive can't have a day off or that he can't go on vacation. However, this is an important job. We know now, especially with the pandemic, how important this job is and how much it affects people's lives in this county. So to say that someone like the county executive could be in surgery and administering drugs to someone, can he be pulled away from that in the middle of that and then handle an emergency that just happened, a plane crash in St. Louis County or an earthquake or something like that would happen that is emergent, that needs the answers and decisions made right away? Is he able to step away from that? I think all these need to be in the discussion, but we have to start somewhere. And I think starting is we have to decide, okay, I think he's been very clear that he admitted that he's been working this side job. He's been very clear that he's doing that. He says he's doing it on his own time, whatever that means. Initially said he needed to do it to keep up his license, which we now know from the Board of Healing Arts isn't accurate. So that really means where do we go from here? So I think we really need to start with a request to the county executive and specifically ask him for documents so we can look at those and see exactly how much are we talking about. Are we talking about a shift a month on a weekend? Are we talking about during the workday, the Monday through Friday type workday? How much is he actually working? How many hours on average a month or a week? How often do these happen? Do they happen during business hours? So I think we need to make a request to him to supply this committee with his number of working hours since he became the county executive. So that would be April 29th of 2019. Ask him specifically, give us your number of working hours that you've had each month, when you started and ended your shift. I think that would be logical to ask that as a starting point to see exactly how often he's doing these outside duties, and do they ever conflict with his job? We know, at least anecdotally at this point, we know from citizens that sometimes we've heard that where he was their anesthesiologist, their family member's anesthesiologist. We know that. So there's a lot of data out there, I think, that we need to gather before we can really start digging into this. Just my thoughts initially.
Thank you. Any other discussions on those points? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms.
So
Webb.
that was going to be a lot of the questions that I was going to be asking, was the viability of the county exec keeping his medical license without actually practicing. And so, Councilman Fitch, if you can share that information with me, where it states whether or not he may continue with his licensing without practicing, is what I was going to be pulling on today to see where we can verify that information and if there is any exceptions. So if you would forward that, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Councilman Fitch?
Yes, Councilwoman Webb, yes, I will get that information, and we'll make it, we'll actually ask for that officially instead of just going through media sources that reported that. I think that's the right thing to do. Not that I think the media would get it wrong, but we absolutely need to get that information. And I think that'll be pretty easy to get.
Okay. Any other discussion on those points?
Yes, Councilman Harder.
Yes, Ms. Days.
It would be helpful to me if whatever information is being disseminated among the members, that we all get this information so that we
Sure.
can have an opportunity to look at it, just in case we miss some things. That would be
Sure.
helpful for me. Thank you.
Sure, will do. My input into this, I think also we need to go back to the allegations. You know, one piece of it is the county executive working an extra job, but there is another allegation in there as well concerning the CARES Act, and want to kind of find out what how the committee wants to handle that, and do we need to do some investigation into those allegations as well? Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Fitch.
Certainly, I think it is something that we need to look at as well. As far as the spending of the CARES Act money, was he able to make decisions because he had those unilateral decision-making authority that the council gave him after we received that $173.5 million in federal CARES Act money? Did he make any decisions to put any of that money toward anything going on at Mercy? Was he part of those discussions to do that? Did that ever happen? That's probably going to be a question that we have to look into with our own county fiscal authorities. And we may even have to reach out to Mercy or Western Anesthesiologists, who I understand has contract at Mercy that he works for and is part of that group, to ask that, to see if they as well received anything as far as money from this CARES Act fund.
Okay. So I see this as two allegations, big allegations, but two unique allegations. As a committee, what do we want to do about the allegation of the two jobs? And Councilman Fitch suggested the getting more information at this point. What do you want to do about that?
Councilman Harder.
Yes, Mr. Days.
Thank you. I think that additional information is needed. How we get that, particularly with the CARES Act, we're supposed to have an accountability system. That's what I was told about that, and I believe you have asked for that information as we move forward with the additional monies that we're going to get. We have asked for an accounting of the 173 before. Have you received that yet?
No, my communication with Ms. Walker in the county executive's office has been that they are preparing a presentation for the council. It looks like we're going to be towards the end of May. I would like to get it the week of the 17th of May, that presentation, and we can ask questions of the folks that are administering that program. I'll probably need your help to try to get that moved up to the week of the 17th if we can work together on that. But I would like to have that.
Okay, so that takes care of the CARES Act money. And in terms of the allegations, I'm not sure how we go about gathering that information. Is there some depository that we can look at? Are we allowed, I guess, to ask for the employment records? Is that possible? I don't know.
I think Mr. Fitch had an idea there.
Okay.
Tim?
Mr. Chair, my suggestion would be is that we formally write a letter to the county executive and ask him to voluntarily provide this data that I talked about earlier. And the data I'm talking about is what were his working hours, to include times when he started and ended his shift, effective April 29th, 2019 to today, or whatever the most recent date would be. So we have something to look at and start with, that we actually ask him formally by letter to voluntarily provide that information. That would be my suggestion, and we could do that. And I could actually put that in form of a motion, Mr. Chair, if you would like that.
Sure. Go ahead.
I will make that motion that we formally ask the county executive by letter by the chair of the ethics committee to provide this information, as I stated, his working hours, to include times when he started and ended his shift, starting on April 29th, 2019.
And when do we want that information?
I would say 2 weeks would be enough time to be able to get that together. Plus, by then, I would think we would have had the meeting on the 17th. Would that work into the timetable?
I think that might, so that would be the 18th-ish.
Either that or the following week.
Okay, I mean, we can receive the information, we can have a meeting following the receipt of that information.
I would say that 2 weeks from the date of the letter that you deliver to the county executive to get us the information.
Okay, so if I send that out this week, we'll add 2 weeks as a deadline. Is that in?
That would be my
right?
motion. Yes.
Okay, that's your motions on the floor. Any comments? Discussion?
I think you need a second. I will do that.
Okay, we have a second from Ms. Days. Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, unanimous. I think that will be the next item here, is to move that forward and to then set up another ethics committee meeting to discuss the findings and what we find out of that. And I think next steps after that. Is that agreeable to everyone?
That's fine. May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Is there any, well, I understand that he considers it as working. There is a possibility that these are volunteer hours. Maybe we need to ask about a dollar amount as well for that, just to keep that in mind. Not sure if that's what the committee would want to do, but I'm not thinking it's volunteer, but it could be, and so we need to have a dollar amount with that.
Okay. Do you want to amend your motion, Mr. Fitch?
Mr. Chair,
No,
before we amend the motion, I think there's a little bit more discussion, because even when we were in the middle of that motion, it was more discussion that we were having. So I was going to ask this as well. Is there a difference between full-time, part-time, or on call? Is that something? Are they all addressed separately? Are they different? Is the difference between being a full-time employee or maybe a part-time employee or even on call just to sustain the medical license? Again, we're going to get that feedback and clarifying that. But is there a difference, and should we be able to distinguish between the three? Or is that not relevant?
I don't know if that's relevant other than what the charter says, and we could debate that, but it says no other employment. It doesn't say whether it's part-time, full-time, to devote all your duties to this job. So I guess that would be up to this committee to determine whether part-time is okay and full-time is not, or certain amount of hours are okay, or we're just going to say no hours are okay. That's kind of
So
where we have to get some input and
So the
discussion.
reason I'm asking is because as we brought up volunteer, I'm just saying let's look at all of those aspects and maybe we can get all of that information at one time, and then whatever the feedback is or the decision is, we've already looked at those options, and so we are aware.
Okay. How about we do this? We'll keep the same amendment, but when I write the letter, I'll ask for a breakdown of volunteer hours and or paid hours.
Okay.
We don't need to know how much.
Works for me.
Would that work?
That's fine.
Okay, I will
Yes,
put that
sir.
in my letter. Any other discussion on that point?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
just
Mr.
one of the things I'd point out is, I know in one of the interviews I saw with the county executive in the media, is he said that, that it was helpful to him and should be to the community, that you had a medical doctor still practicing during the pandemic. And I'm especially interested to see if he was working, these hours before the pandemic started. I understand what he said there. I get what he said there, but how is it related to pre-pandemic? So I look forward to hearing that as well.
Okay. Should I add that to the letter?
Well, I think that that will probably be something in the future. Doesn't necessarily need to go in the letter. There'll probably be future discussion that we will need to have once we get those hours back and see exactly how much have been going on.
Okay.
Mr.
And
Chair,
Yes, Ms. Tays.
and I think that in when you look at the time frame that you're asking for information, I think that will preclude the pandemic, if I heard the dates correctly. So that may be captured already.
Yes, I believe so. Okay. So how do we want to handle the allegation about the CARES Act money? Do we want to table that, or do we want to ask for some investigation there other than what we're going to get hopefully soon? Yes, Mr. Fitch.
I would just say that we asked for the information from the county who tracks those expenses with specific questions as far as Mercy, Western anesthesiologists. Did they benefit from any of these CARE Act funds that the county executive had control over? And get that asked and answered, then take it from there.
Do we need to make a motion for that activity?
Mr. Chair, before we make the motion.
Yes, more discussion.
Yes, sir. So the CARES Act money as for that could be related to the county executive employment. But then are we also just asking for all CARES Act funding spending in general, or we're just specifically for the ones that could be related to where the county exec worked?
I think the allegations tie directly to just what influence he may have over the money that either Mercy or Western anesthesiology would have received out of the CARES Act.
Okay.
Whether we want to find that out.
Okay.
So do we want to find that out? It's a question.
I think so.
Okay.
And yes, Mr. Chair, and I think that when we get that information, it should be part of that. So I don't know if another motion is necessary at this point, because you already requested the information. We're just waiting for it to come to us.
Okay. So should I address that in the same letter about, or should I go after another source for that information? Yes, Mr. Fitch.
My suggestion would keep the letter to the county executive on his specific activities, and then ask our professional staff for the spending records that would answer our questions regarding how that money was distributed.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir. I concur. I think that we should send a separate letter to Ms. Cora Faith Walker to ask her for follow-up on the report that she's supposed to put together by the 17th, and then go with our budgeting services as well to get those details.
Okay. I would agree. That sounds good. Anything else before this committee that we need to discuss? Hearing none. Do we have any comments from the residents? Diane?
No, sir. There were no public comments.
Okay. Okay, anything else anybody wants to talk about for the good of the group and the subject?
I have nothing.
Okay, hearing none, can I hear a motion for adjournment?
I move that we adjourn meeting.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time today, and we will report back as soon as we hear anything else.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.